rebels, yeah! I think there's two primary opinions regarding this band. There's the way the reviews go that call them quite imitative and trying hard to be cool and rebellious. Yeah, I'm making no excuses for that name. And then they have one of those beer man fandoms that's very much about the early stuff. I'm not in either camp, not a fandom, but a fond of them, and this is how it goes for me. See, they start off with the blues rock that's so primitive, it's almost Neanderthal, but within that is the strength of their guitar and bass work. Not necessarily strength in either vocalist or the drums, but the way they turn the bass up and distort it as much as the lead guitar I very much like. Their albums are very sprawling, all around an hour long, with it not being rare for a track to be more than 5 minutes long, and they earn that time and they fill it up with some compelling night rock. Basically, the main trick is bass riffs in C minor. If it was possible to get enough of those, you'd get them from BRMC. There was an EP around this time, let's look at that. Best I can remark is that it's unremarkable. 5 tracks, 4 songs, 2 good songs. Let's just say this is table level in this stack. There's some kind of demos thing I'm gonna dismiss. Be gone! Second album does very much the same thing, just with a bit more confidence in their songwriting, taking it further from the kind of shoegaze sprawl and ensuring that every moment has something happening. It maps so closely to that first album that it's difficult to come up with anything qualitative about it. It's just a slightly more successful version of the same. Just in greater focus, a higher hit rate. Then a major deviation, and this is how I first heard the band. I guess I saw some positive reviews about Howl and saw the CD for cheap and thought, yeah, I'll get that. Maybe I hadn't even heard them at the time. And maybe there's some kind of beginner's bias obfuscating my understanding of this album, but really, it never much hooked me. All online reaction I'm seeing about it is reasonably positive. It's them going acoustic and going more like traditionally bluesy, and it's got its moments, and I applaud them choosing to do something different, but I think they've chosen to make music without the things they're best at. Functionally reduced to a duo, they make good of the resources that they have left, but I think they don't make good enough. For a band whose whole approach is so close to cliche, I feel they're indulging in it here and writing things that aren't particularly original, don't really need to be said. There's a Jesus-y thing. Kind of shows the flip side to their existing Jesus diss track, but I feel that's very un-rock and roll. It's just following along with an existing dogma. Pretentious writing on the back of it. It's likely enough that I'm just wrong about this one. A lot of people like it, but I'm gonna have to rank it here. There's a bonus little EP thing that I didn't get a disc of. You see why they didn't make the album. It's trad stuff that's just not for me. Except those that didn't make the album because they're better than it, but that's just 2 tracks. Then it's that time when rock bands realize that just being a rock band won't get you into the charts anymore, and you've got to try and get into the charts to get into the charts. But that really suits BRMC. For a riff rock band, they're just making their riffs more frontal. You can only really fault this one on obviousness, and they were already close enough to obviousness throughout the career, and in this one, it's obvious how much they fucking rock. Maybe just as a one-off indulgence, them doing the pop version of their sound, which is still way far from pop, still minor key bass riffs all over the place, but with the rockist posturing made more inclusive, it's a victory. It's a good place to start and also a good place to stay. There's a bonus little EP thing that I did get a disc of. It's basically album length, just not BRMC album length. Just further things from the same sessions, and it's quite clearly the offcuts. You see why these didn't make the album, except for the track 20 Hours. There's not really anything specific here that you need to hear, but with how good that album is, it's good to hear some more in the same vibe. The rest of the tracks kind of hover around an average unfinished sound that's still pleasant enough, but just not satisfying as a completed song. BRMC's next move seems designed just to troll someone who might try ranking their albums in 2023, because there's no other excuse for the next thing they published as a digital-only release. I listened to it in full on its release, and I listened to it in full again just now for this video, and thereby the joke's on me. Because there's no real function for this a musical project. To call them all instrumentals would be too high a compliment. That had to be only a momentary diversion, and then a refreshed lineup brings a refreshed sound. With just as much determination as 81, but more diversity and more feeling. It's quite literally strength to strength, as each time there's a new track, there's a new strength. This epitomizes the Black Rebel sound while also showing every corner to it. Then it's that time in a medium-long career when you get to Morning, with a U. Everyone's got the right to do this at some point, and everyone's probably going to have the need to do this at some point. Luckily, they really deliver on it. Finally shows some depth to the band, and it really suits them. It doesn't lack the power of their earlier material, it just paces it out a bit better. Like, all their albums are this length, and this one feels properly designed as an album. Then they kind of continue in that same vein, but I think they've kind of lost focus here. Definitely lost focus on the vocals. They're buried in the mix, but not in the satisfying hard rock guitar way that it has been before, because the mix that they're buried in is more like atmospheric, and that's a music reviewer euphemism for completely forgettable. They're drawing a lot of the tracks out as a kind of sleepy time anthem, which comes close to one of the main strengths of their first two records, but they've forgotten to include riffs. This is the band playing without their strengths on purpose. For continuing on such a strong sequence in their career, although of course increasing in the amount of time between albums, they now feel a bit lost. Though it delivers on their overall vibe while still showing that they've got new ideas, it feels like another one of those cast-off compilations, I'm sorry. That's BRMC thus far. They are awesome live, and they are this quality on albums.